there might be conflict and confrontation in between. There might be trauma, there might be, earthquakes and things happening on Earth, but I don't think it will be necessary to have a huge apocalyptic cataclysm. There won't be this division like, oh, I pray to this God and it's better than that God, and you're better than this and that. So that ego will be more integrated and everyone will kind of like be more accepting of everyone else's belief system. Hi, my name is Altea Lucrezia. I was born in Italy and I've traveled in many different parts of the world. I'm a multidimensional galactic channel, an ET contactee. I do energy healing. I work within the Akash. I assist people in clearing timelines. I also use a healing modality called light language, which works beyond the constraints of space and time. And then I carry people through experiences, through courses. I train people to heighten their psychic vision and intuition. I run retreats around the world. So yeah, I've been called to do this since a very young age. Through my channeling, which is mainly light language modality, but I can channel all types of different beings. I work in the Akashic records as well. So clients will come to me and then I will go into their Akash, see kind of like their lessons, their experiences, seek what kind of cords they have connected to other people, family members, loved one, people who have passed on. I'm at a point now where my channel is very integrated. So for me, I don't trance channel. I'm very present when I'm channeling. So I'm speaking in tongues, I'm making these sounds, but I'm here. I don't like, it's like some channels leave and then they come back and they forget. I'm very present, I'm very anchored. That's kind of like how my channel works. I channel mainly a higher version of myself, which is a ninth dimensional Pleiadian being that I work with, which is a version of me because we're all operating on a lot of different multidimensional levels. And then, yeah, for whatever is needed for the collective, for who I have in front of me, if I'm at a conference, if I'm holding a workshop, whatever I'm doing, I just trust and surrender and then kind of like, allow the channel to come through. There's different ways of channeling. So even the channel is multidimensional. So the way I channel for myself will be different to how I channel for the collective, which will be different to how I channel for an individual, which will be different to how I channel in a workshop. So it's almost like there's all these multidimensional levels and layers to the channel itself as well. So a memorable experience of me channeling would probably be when I do like big conferences or big group channelings. It's always very beautiful. Like I did a conference last year in San Diego where there were about 300 people. And the channel that comes through is so strong and, people are responding, people are opening up their own channel. It's like my favorite and my most memorable would be when it's like a big community and we all, putting our input and coming in together and working on each other and assisting and expanding. And when I see people that really surrender and allow for the codes to come through and to assist them, that's when really like the most healing takes place. So my spiritual awakening started, I would say, very young. I was one of those children who would see shadows and I couldn't sleep because there were beings in my room. I would have like prophetic dreams or thoughts that then would come real and happen. So I would think of someone and then they would call. So I would have all these like psychic gifts that were already developed from a very young age. I come from a lineage of witches and psychic women. My mom is psychic. My grandmother was psychic. They don't do psychic work for a living, but it's been in the blood of my family for a very long time. So that was kind of like how I was introduced to this world. And then around 12, I started like reading tarots and I got my first tarot deck. And then around my teens, I kind of like quietened down and I think I was getting a little bit overwhelmed because I was so psychically open that I was picking up all the energies from a lot of people around me. So I ended up getting into a space where I was like numbing myself and, and drinking and partying and really just trying to block all this emotion that I was feeling from other people because no one taught me how to use my energy. And then around my early 20s, I started with the Reiki healing and I would go to Reiki healing very often. And then in between that, I had another kind of like a few years where I lost myself and I was, being abusive towards my body and my system. And I wasn't really, taking care of myself. And then I had a very intense hospital scare. I ended up in the hospital and I was like, okay, like something needs to change. And that was back in around 2017. And when that happened, I went completely sober, completely clear. And that's when everything really started opening up a lot more. And they started prepping my system, my energy field. I was receiving downloads 24/7. I had about 6 to 8 months where I really struggled to kind of like conduct a normal life within society because of all the information that I was getting. I was seeing the geometry, the beings. There were like flames in my room. I was like told to do research and I was kind of connecting all the dots. So it's almost like they had just been waiting for me to be in that space to be able to receive. And then I started receiving. And then from there, it kind of like opened up more and more and more. I had a very intense experience in 2020 where I had just gotten out from a very violent, abusive relationship with someone. And I was like broke and in debt. And I had no job. My job was taken away because it was pandemic, and I was organizing like events and vintage markets, and I had my Reiki studio on the side, and I decided to move everything online, and that's when like it really kicked off and started becoming successful. And yeah, I think I was in a space where I released all and any attachment. I had no control over my body because I was pregnant at the time, no control over my finances. I was in debt, no control over my work because it was, pandemic, and I'd gone back to live with my parents. And I still found a way to be grateful. And from the gratitude, I was able to expand into what I'm doing now. And I just sat back and I listened, and my guides, they assisted, they helped me, they supported me. And yeah, and so those were like pivotal times in my ascension and awakening process. Okay, why does the earth feel so chaotic right now, both on a spiritual and physical level? So, I mean, because of the vibrational frequency of the planet rising so exponentially and so quickly, what happens is things need to come more to the surface. We have to remember Mother Gaia is clearing her own karma. So she's clearing her own things through us and through herself, and we're all connected. So things like earthquakes, volcanoes erupting, it's her clearing her own karma and her own trauma as well. There has always been polarity in third dimensional density. There's always been kind of like a battle between, the good and the bad, the service to self and the service to others, and this pull for people to move out of their organic timeline and move into these inorganic timelines. And I think now people are just more aware of it. People are waking up, so they're seeing more what's happening on a spiritual level, on an energetic level. People before were more asleep. They were more concentrated on the physical, on the 3D. Now they're looking more for answers. So I think it's definitely been amplified, but it's something that has been happening before as well. Where we are in the evolutionary process, it's kind of like textbook for the evolution of society and humanity. Like what we're moving through is very normal when it comes to understanding the evolution of a species. We just have been struggling because there's been a lot of different ET forces and energies that have interrupted and intervened and affected our evolutionary process. So in a way, we need to kind of like learn to take back our sovereignty and then, navigate this with integrity. So, yeah, definitely, like there are systems that are dismantling themselves in order for people to understand and anchor into the new frequency. And it is happening all over the world. And I think humans are building more communities. They're coming together. They're, unifying more. And what we are needing to learn right now, we are clearing Atlantean karma. So what does this mean? This means that we are now in a very pivotal space where we need to learn to integrate the technology in a way that is healthy, that aligns with our organic timeline in order to clear the previous karmic timelines that happened in ancient Atlantis where the technology wasn't integrated in a healthy way. So this is just one of the things that we're navigating and moving through. But I think that's a very important thing for people to know. It's understanding that it's sovereignty. The technology works for you. You don't work for it. And we're seeing it in society. We're seeing people, especially with the younger generations, that they can struggle, and so it's really important to kind of like bring them back to their roots, to themselves. Like, I don't think we need to, go back into the forest and say we're never going to use technology again, because that's also counterproductive to the evolution of consciousness. But we need to find balance, between these tools that we are being given, and maintaining our integrity and our connection to the earth and to ourselves and to our history. How will conflict resolution evolve in a more awakened world? That's also a very good question. Thank you for asking that. So conflict will become confrontation. So what's going to happen is, instead of people, and this is on an individual level, but also on a collective level, instead of people reacting, they're going to learn to respond. So the communication will be integrated in a way that there is back and forth in a balanced way, so that there can then be a midway and a resolution. So I understand, conflict is a more negative connotation. Even when you comes to a conversation with two people, confrontation is everyone expressing their part, the other person listening. So, people must learn to listen, and then finding kind of like a midway solution to that. That's how I see this evolving and being resolved in the future. Hopefully, we are all going to be able to move into a space where humanity is respected, humanity is seen, humanity is heard, humanity operates from the space of unconditional love. One thing I can say that I'm aware of is that I know that the nuclear arms have been deactivated, so there won't be a nuclear war coming. This is one of the things that, because of the sovereign laws that there are in the universal laws, it's very complicated. However, from the way that I understand it, if our sovereign free will has been tampered with, which it has, ET beings are allowed to intervene to a certain extent. And I think there was a loophole within the universal laws of the galactic worlds and confederations, where they were able to actually deactivate the nuclear weapons, because it's almost like humanity cannot be trusted with this. They're going to destroy everything. So that's what I can say with regards to that. Will traditional religions survive the wave of awakening and change? That's also a very good question. I think it will. Yes, this is what they're saying to me. It's going to mutate. It's going to shift into something better, into something that is more all-encompassing and all-englobing. I think the dogmatic process of it will be cleared and released. People will always want to connect to a higher power or version of themselves. So it will just mutate in a way that is more connected to the unity consciousness. There won't be this division like, oh, I pray to this God and it's better than that God, and you're better than this and that. So that ego will be more integrated, and everyone will kind of like be more accepting of everyone else's belief system, as long as it operates from a space of service to others, and as long as it's, again, not harming anyone. So I think religion as we know it now will definitely like have a big shift and change. What do you believe still lies hidden beneath the pyramids? So I actually do a lot of work in the astral with the pyramids. I understand they are stargates and portals to assist with energy coming in and out. There's definitely a lot of tunnels. There's definitely a lot of information. There's definitely a lot of, I think there's actually ET technology that's still there, that we still haven't discovered, or that we are aware of, but we can't take out. So yeah, there's definitely a lot still under there, but I would mainly say that there's probably still ET technology that needs to be discovered. I do think there's definitely been pole shifts from what I understand. I also get told not to do a lot of external research because I have my own channel, and that can be a little bit confusing. I don't think we're moving into any kind of like freezing era or like cataclysms. I don't think that's happening within the next years. Like, I think we're moving into a space of love, peace, devotion, understanding. Yes, there might be conflict and confrontation in between. There might be trauma, there might be, earthquakes and things happening on Earth, but I don't think it will be necessary to have a huge apocalyptic cataclysm, because what I've been seeing happening is a lot of these apocalyptic and cataclysmic timelines are actually being cleared within the astral space from a lot of energy workers. And this is the problem. A lot of energy workers will see these cataclysmic and apocalyptic timeline and be like, oh, this is going to happen. No, you're seeing it, so you're able to clear it. So it's actually not going to happen on Earth. So this is kind of like the timeline I'm anchoring in. I don't think we should fear AI. I think the fear of it is actually what can end up putting us in a space where we are actually being controlled. So I think it's important to stand again in our sovereignty and reclaim our sovereignty. As with regards to AI communicating with the spirit world someday, maybe, perhaps, why not? I mean, everything is possible. I think that we don't know so much, and even when we think we know, we still don't know. And everything is real and everything is possible and everything can happen. So yeah, I guess it's a possibility. Yeah, so my most memorable interaction experience with ET beings would probably have to be back in 2018. So I've had a lot of different experiences, and this one is actually the one that propelled me into my ascension and awakening journey. So I was basically, I was back in Milano in Italy, and at the time I was moving through a lot of different emotional things. So my frequency, I wasn't in a very good space emotionally. So my frequency was quite lowered. I wasn't shielding myself. I wasn't in a good space. And basically what happened is it was an evening and it was summer and it was quite hot. And so I was on the lower ground floor of like an apartment building. And so I'd left my window open and it was like a door window and I couldn't fall asleep. And eventually at like 3 in the morning, I was like, okay, let me just try and get down and sleep. And there was no reason for me to not be able to fall asleep. And the next day I was flying back to South Africa. And as soon as I fell asleep, I found myself in the astral realm. So, just for everyone to understand, I have a very lucid, active astral space. So, I've always been very lucid in my astral. I'm very active. I know what's going on. I'm very much in control. I don't really have experiences that I'm not aware of. So, when I was in the astral, I find myself, I'm running, I'm running, I'm running, I'm running, and I'm running away from like these negative alien beings that are trying to catch me. And as I'm running, like people next to me are like dropping dead, and it's like everything is quite alarming. And all of a sudden, I hide myself under like a wooden table, and I physically feel like I'm starting to get prodded at the lower base of my spine, so at my lower back. And I get thrown back into my body, and I wake up, and all of a sudden, I turn to my left side, and there was about half a meter, maybe like a meter between me and the wall. And there was literally a gray alien being looking at me, like in my face, like in front of me. And he was wearing like a gray shirt, like a suit thing with like short sleeves and a round neck. And his head was quite big, but the whole body and being looked pretty small, like it was smaller than a human. And then I physically get pushed back into my bed, like with my head, and I can hear them like leaving from the window, like the door window. And throughout this, all the dogs outside, like in the whole area, are like barking like crazy, like there's a whole commotion happening outside. And then I got up. Well, I didn't really get up. I sat up and I was like, I was really, really in shock. I knew these things were happening. I didn't think it would happen to me. And so I had like strength to get up and close the window. And then I sat there. I looked at the clock and it had been maybe like 5 minutes or something like that. It was like 5 past 3 or 10 past 3. So all of this happened very, very quickly. And so the next day I was flying back to South Africa. So I flew back. And when I flew back, I started looking for someone to help me with the QHHT, the Dolores Cannon method, to bring me back in hypnotic regression so I could see someone. And when I went to this woman's house, it was really lovely because she told me that she had been a psychic for like 9 or 10 years before that. And so she sent me back through the method. And when I got back there, I arrived at the scene and I accessed it through the quantum realm as my higher version of self. So I was looking down at me and I saw there were three alien beings. One was on my left that I saw physically. There was one standing at the foot of the bed at the base, and there was one a little bit closer to the door. And as I was there in my higher version of self in the quantum, I addressed them and I said to them, "You need to leave. You can't be here. I'm a sovereign being." And all three of them turned around and looked at me in the quantum and they like freaked out. They were like, "Oh my goodness, okay, she shouldn't be able to access this. Why is she here? We're not supposed to be seen. This isn't what we signed up for. We need to leave now." And then they left. So I was literally able to go back and actually like save myself in that situation. So after I had that experience, I've had many other ones, but that was kind of like the main one that switched my perception. And I was explained after from my family, from my galactic family and my spirit guides that I needed that experience to switch my perception so that I understood that if there's beings that are not so good, then there must be really good ones. So why don't I try connect to the good ones? And then that, became my life mission and brought me to where I am now. Why do so not many people believe in ETs? Because there's sovereign free will. I mean, people are, it's their life choice what they want and not want to believe in. I think a lot of people only believe what they see because we've been conditioned from society to not believe something unless we see it. But there's a whole other world out there within ourselves, within our spirituality, within our imagination, within the different dimensional densities where a lot of these beings exist. And I think disclosure is happening on an individual level and on a collective level as well. So I think like I'm very excited for the future. I think a lot of people are opening up more, and we've seen it in the past few years. People are believing more, they're understanding more, they're turning more to their own spirituality for answers because they're not really getting answers the way they used to before. So yeah, I think like we're moving in the right direction. I think there's a lot of different beings out there that have a lot of different agendas. Some of them are here to assist. Some of them are here for their own kind of like service to self. So there's basically like two timelines, if we want to simplify it, that beings choose. One is an organic timeline in service to others, and the other one would be an inorganic timeline in service to self. The beings that are in service to self don't really care about humanity's well-being and are just accessing what they can for their own selfish needs. The beings that are in service to others are here to support, guide, help, and assist. However, we are our own sovereign beings, so they teach us sovereignty. So no one's going to come here and save us. We need to work on ourselves. We need to work as a community. We need to, unify and work as a collective in order to continue in the evolutionary process and reach, a baseline vibrational frequency within ourselves and within the earth that is towards the ascension process. Is there a correlation between soul's memory and our DNA strands? Yes, for sure, definitely. I think we've only touched the surface in the 3D of what it is that we can actually access. So the way I understand it is the soul has had different experiences and they are encoded within our DNA. So within your DNA, the more you activate, the more you expand, the more you are also able to access these parts of other lifetimes of your soul and of your experiences. You might be a very highly evolved soul who's chosen to come on Earth to incarnate here and navigate this experience, but you might have had lifetimes on Lyra, on Orion, in different constellations. And through your DNA, through accessing your multidimensional self, which is through the DNA structure, you are then able to recollect those memories and anchor them in, and then open and expand more to your psychic gifts and intuition. So what signs can people feel when the DNA is starting to get activated? Okay, there's a lot of them. I think the first step when you start your ascension awakening process is like you feel a little bit disillusioned. You're like, okay, what am I doing here? Like, this isn't enough anymore. You start to look for answers outside yourself. And then as you start expanding, like your body will tell you. So it's really important to be grounded and present in the now, because then you can start listening to your body. So it can be something as like your ears whistling, or you feel like tingling in your hands out of the middle of nowhere, or you feel like emotions and things moving in your stomach. Or when you close your eyes, you start seeing lights and colors in your third eye. Your psychic gifts start expanding. So it's a whole process. The light language and the channeling really helps with activating the DNA. And also, every time you progress in your spiritual evolution, you're activating more DNA. Every time you choose to stay in your truth, every time you choose to operate from the heart center, every time you choose to set a healthy boundary for yourself, you are aligning more with your organic timeline template and therefore activating more of your DNA. Do traumas and past life experiences block our DNA upgrades? Yes and no. So, when you have had a lot of different lifetimes, sometimes you carry the trauma in this lifetime. So, let's say in this lifetime you had like a beautiful childhood, but you've had lifetimes where you were abandoned as a child. So, in this lifetime, it might come up as an abandonment wound that affects you in your partnerships and in your unions. So, it's important, in my opinion, to understand and have knowledge of your previous lifetimes because then it can help you understand patterns and things within this lifetime. You can live a perfectly happy and healthy lifetime without knowing any of your previous lifetimes. Like, that's also okay. However, it does help if you want to ascend quicker and you want to, move up quicker in your ascension awakening process, because then you can pinpoint, okay, this pattern comes from that, this comes from this, that I need to clear with that. Like, you can still do all this without having the knowledge and doing the research, but it's kind of like, do you want to learn to play tennis and practice, once a month and you'll still learn it? Or do you want to learn and practice like twice a week? Then you'll learn a lot quicker. Do I believe that upgraded DNA can shift collective frequency nowadays? Yes, definitely, for sure. Even one person can shift the collective. And this is what I always say also to my clients, like, lead by example, be the light. You are the light and bring the light wherever you go. And whatever you touch, if you are carrying this light, it's going to affect everyone positively. We are all mirrors of each other. So if you are in your integrity and you are in your light and you are navigating from this space of unconditional love, then you are holding a mirror for others. And others can see themselves in it and they can see their unconditional love, or it can mirror back at them what they need to work on. So even by not doing anything and just being yourself, if you're operating from this space and working on yourself, it will have a ripple effect on everyone around you. Yes, a lot of people are definitely unconsciously and subconsciously giving away their power. I think there's a very big program that comes in with people pleasing. So people are scared to speak their truth and they're scared to upset others, but they don't understand that they're in control of their own emotions, actions, and words. And it's the same for other people. You cannot control someone else's emotional response. If you are speaking your truth and you are in your truth, and that's what you're operating from, then the way that gets received in the other space is up to the other person. You can't control that. If you are trying to people please and you're doing things against your free will, you are only doing a disservice to yourself and to whoever you have around you. They might need to hear that lesson from you. They might need to hear that boundary. And it can be something as simple as your family is always asking you for favors and you don't really have time to do them, but you do them anyway. You're not operating in integrity. You're not listening to yourself. You're not listening to your body. You're not listening to your truth. So I think in that way, a lot of people aren't sovereign, and it's affecting them, and it's affecting them from leading a happy life. From what I'm understanding and from what I'm sensing and picking up, we obviously are moving through a lot of different phases and stages. A lot of people are moving through ego deaths. So they are rebirthing themselves in their truer, newer version of self. So they're letting go of attachments, of relationships, of jobs, and it feels like things are going all up in the air and they're trying to figure out what direction to go down. So my advice is like, hold tight, stay in there. Once you start on this beautiful journey of awakening, you can't really go back. So even if it feels like you're taking step backwards, you're not. You're actually still moving forwards, but healing is not linear. It goes up and down and back and forth. And then one morning you wake up and, you're like, oh, a year ago I would have responded differently. Look how far I've come. So it's important to measure your progress in the span of like 6 months to a year, not like the month before or the week before. When do I sense the awakening will complete? That's a very good question. Well, I don't think it never really ends. We are constantly, awakening and expanding in our evolutionary process. I see a lot of big shifts next year. Next year, there'll be a lot of big shifts that are happening. I think, again, awakening is happening on an individual level, on a collective level. And yeah, I think more and more people are understanding that they need to turn inwards and they need to, work on themselves and expand. And through that expansion, assist the planet and assist the collective. And I think on an individual level, again, the best thing you can do is just be a kind, good, nice human, and everything else is going to align. So, is there a link between trauma and psychic abilities? That's a very good question. Yeah, there definitely is. So, what I've learned in my own experience is if I wouldn't have been put through those very intense emotional extreme experiences, I would not be as good as an energy worker as I am now, because now I have even more deeply rooted empathy. I can understand if someone's been through abuse and they come to me, I'm like, I can understand because I've been through it. If someone has been through addiction and they come to me, I can understand because I've been through it. I have an addictive personality, so I know what it feels like to have to release and clear that attachment. So it's not that everyone needs to go through trauma to open up their psychic abilities and be psychic. Some people have it very gentle. Some people have very gentle awakening processes and things open up very gently for them. But I do find that the universe will push you to where it is that you need to go. And if you're not listening, it's going to be a lot harder. And we all need to go through certain lessons. How you navigate and move through those lessons, that's your choice. You can move through with integrity, you can listen, you can be truthful to yourself, or you can carry on in a direction that isn't organic and aligned. And in that case, the universe will kind of like push you back to where it is that you're supposed to go. So definitely, I think that trauma opens up a lot, and especially like it helps you understand yourself. And once you heal and navigate and move through it, that helps with sovereignty and empowerment too. So certain foods can definitely affect your spirituality, your system and energy field. Everyone is different. Everyone's system is different. So I don't want, people to take this, oh, the Holy Grail. However, this is what I've learned and this is what works for me. Things like meat is very dense on a karmic and energetical level. You are now eating something that was an evolved soul and went through pain and trauma. And even if it was killed in an organic way, it was still killed. So you are choosing to take on that energetically and physically putting it into your body. So you can be a great and amazing channel and still eat meat. But if you're looking to raise your vibrational frequency quickly, things like meat is definitely going to block you. Fish, not as much, but also like it's still the being. The reason why a plant-based diet is better is because the level of soul density that a plant has reached is not as complex and as high as what would be an animal. So an animal is of higher second level of soul density. A humanity will be in a third and up. And so it takes a lot longer for you to clear that energetically, and you're making kind of like karma and more work for yourself than it does to clear a plant-based plant-based food. So that's one thing. Alcohol also, like I see it as poison energetically. Like I could actually smell it and it makes me sick. And I used to drink alcohol. But once you raise your vibrational frequency, if you want to, again, raise your frequency quickly and you want to really operate as a channel of integrity, something like alcohol will tear holes in your auric field and it will allow beings to come in, and then that will create distortion. So yeah, anything that really, creates distortion and attachment and isn't used in a way that is, healthy and organic. So plant medicine is a little bit different. Plant medicine can be really useful. I do find that in today's society has been kind of like abused and oversaturated, and there's a lot of people out there who are using plant medicine out of integrity. For me, personally, I don't use anything. I don't feel like I need anything. I have in the past. I've been there, done that. Obviously not all of them, but it's really like for me, I just work on the clarity and as clean and clear as possible. So that then I'm offering a service that is within integrity to my clients. But I do know people that really struggle with some traumas, and sometimes plant medicine can help with that. Used with intention. Sometimes something like tobacco can really assist in grounding if it's used ceremonially with intention, with love. But yeah, I think And generally, if you want to be a clear and good channel, you need to keep your system as clean and clear as possible. And that goes for any type of attachment. It can be an attachment to exercising, an attachment to sugar. It can be an attachment to toxic relationships. Removing all the unhealthy attachments will put you in a space where you can be a very clear channel. Okay, so you can just close your eyes and anchor into the body as you find your comfortable breathing rhythm. With every inhale, you breathe in light. And with every exhale, you release all that doesn't serve you anymore. As you relax body, system, and energy field, you stay in a space of openness and oneness. And as we call on the Archangelic Collective, Michael to the south, Uriel to the north, Raphael to the east, and Gabriel to the west, we call on Archangel Metatron with his blue cloak of protection from above, and Sandalphon to seal the grid from below. We call on our higher selves, our spirit guides, and anyone else who wishes to be present for the greatest and highest good. You're welcome in this space. Remember to listen with your heart and not your mind. Surrender and allow. The codes will come in where they are needed for you at this moment in time. Shukurukua tre tre okurukut kai shinayatra. Tria tare tre kurukut kra siatara ia ishinayatra. Tria triat kra tria seatu kua ishiatakra. Triatari creu curcut gracia nara iara ishe. Shukurukuat kiera tra. Triatri opening systems, opening niyotokuru kua ishira isiratara, shirayatra, siratukuru ishirayatra, expanding, letting go, yat krua itirasha, releasing, letting go of all that doesn't serve you. Kiaro kukua ishinayatra. Krua kukua ishinayatre, asiara kiero kukut kraishia, shukuru kuaishie, nianaratre, asiaratra, kiera kurukuaishia, shukuru kuaishinayatra, triaseo kurukua ashiratra, triatre kurukuana iasiera ishetakra, shukuru kuareatre krik urukumra isiratra, kumara ishirayatra, shukuru kuaishia. Shukrukuwa treasiero kurukut kratie isheyara trat kurukua na yashetaka. Shukrukut kraishera, that grounding, anchoring as we bring in more light, divine rays. We anchoring, expanding structures. Yetu kurukua ishera yatra, anchoring, balancing, aligning, grounding, aligning systems, aligning. Shukurukua ishitara. Shikurukuara trea shirayatra, tre kurukua ishitara. Shirokurukut krakiera ishirayatra. Shukurukuania shira treat kier kurukua ishia. Shukurukut kria ishira siratara, tre kurukuat kieratra. Shukurukuarea tre ishinayatra. Shukurukuna esiare shiratakra. Ishurkukuare sha closing, sealing, closing. Shirokurukut krai shirayatra. Ishiratrukuro ishitara. As you gently ground back into the body and come back into the physical vessel. Remembering you're welcome to stay in process for as long as you need to. The codes will go where they're needed in your system and energy field. You might feel things release for the next few hours. You might feel a bit emotional. You might have things come up in the next few days. Just surrender, allow, and thank you. Whenever you feel ready, you can open your eyes. So so if you guys want to find me, you can just check out my website. The links will be below here, and my Instagram is LIGHTCODES by ALA. I train people to do what I do. So I do 6-week and 6-month programs, and then I help people expand their psychic vision and intuition. I also hold masterclasses on channeling. I do one-on-one light language and activations. I'm running a retreat in Bali in September of this year, and then next year I'm doing an ascension training in Los Angeles. So I still have some slots available for that. It will be in February of 2026. But yeah, all my links will be below if you want to connect with me and let me know. And then I also do Akashic clearings and readings. And I've got about maybe 30 different workshops on my website as well. So if that's how you like learning, just like, you can click and buy those. I've got one for third eye, psychic attacks, manifestation, abundance. I do a masterclass also on how to anchor your spiritual gifts and expand into abundance. So if you're starting a spiritual business, I will do business coaching as well. So I'll help you understand the energetics behind the business and the energetics in order for you to be able to become successful and call in abundance and financial abundance.